Hi, lovelies, welcome back. So, this week is another request. I've been asked by a dear friend of mine to talk about the topic of sleep and insomnia. So, I thought, why not? It's something that I've struggled with a lot in the past, and there's some things that I've seen about it that could be helpful. So, first of all, like we talked about in last week's video on emotional numbness, there's a kind of bigger thing going on. And what do I mean by that? Well, we have a kindness to the design. We have a kind of bigger wisdom, bigger energy that is helping us and, you know, being there. We see it so clearly in the body, like so clearly. In fact, just before hitting record, I got a giant sliver right underneath the cuticle. You guys probably can't see it. It's kind of bloody. I don't really want to put it so close to the camera. But when that happened, thank God that I have pain receptors because it instantly alerted me. Like I got that kind of, stuck my hand in near the woody area. I got the sliver. And when I pulled it back out, saw, okay, thank God the pain is there because now I'm going to look and check. If there was no pain, I wouldn't have even known. There'd just be this big chunk of wood under my cuticle that would eventually got infected or, done other harm. So it's really important to see, like, yeah, that same intelligence that is behind, telling me that I have a sliver, or that same intelligence that really kind of numbs us out, those same opioids we have, those same endorphins we have, that same just the way that we digest foods and have hearts that beat and lungs that breathe without our doing. This is what I mean by the bigger picture, the kindness of the design. So I know for myself when there have been times when sleep has seemed really elusive and insomnia has been really chronic. There was a time, about a period of, I would say, years, that I would consider insomnia to be a kind of active part of my life. I considered it chronic. I kind of knew I wasn't going to sleep at night, which is, I'll get to that in a second, but that is something that really, really was a symptom of an underlying thing. So it's interesting because now when I look back at it, hindsight vision 2020, I can see, oh, that insomnia was telling me that my mind was way too busy, way too fast, and I was paying it way too much attention and respect. And it's no surprise that my years where I was the most insomniac was the times that I was the most chronically anxious and in the most kind of mental suffering and distress. It makes perfect sense. But at the time, I didn't see it that way. I didn't see, oh, well, bodies naturally sleep. Sleep is necessary for survival. It's built in. We have literally systems that create hormonal cocktails to lull us and keep us asleep. So if that wasn't happening on a chronic basis, then there's something deeper to see there. And the deeper message, for me at least, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily the deeper message for you, although it's something that you can get curious about and play with. But for me, it was looking at, well, what am I doing? What is my relationship to my mind? Because if I'm designed to sleep, if sleep is my natural state, and if I'm not sleeping on a chronic basis, I mean, it's one thing to have a night here or there, and I still have that now. I don't consider having a problem with sleep, but I'll have nights where I don't sleep great. And they're kind of one-offs and no big deal. But when it was really chronic and when it was really just super pervasive for me, that was an invitation, the same way that this painful sliver in my hand is an invitation to look at, my hand. It was an invitation to look at, well, what's going on in your mind that you're up all night with a tossing, churning, jostling, chatty, busy mind. And what is there to see about this? What is there to see about the fact that you're paying it way too much attention, that you're taking what it says way too seriously, that you're throwing the natural system of the body out of balance? Like I said, sleep's natural. So what was there to see that what I was doing in my mind was creating such distress and havoc that I wasn't sleeping? And so the first thing, of course, is just seeing the kindness of design and asking these questions like, well, what am I not seeing about this? What is the, what either in my life, in my thinking, in my relationship to my thinking, is something that is playing a role that I'm not seeing? And just to be kind with ourselves about seeing that, because for me at the time, I knew that I was using my mind in a really unhelpful way. I just didn't know there was an alternative. I was like, yeah, I'm incredibly anxious, and that's obviously probably keep me up at night because I'm just thinking anxious thoughts all night when I could be sleeping. But I didn't think there was anything else. I didn't think that I could have a different relationship to that thinking. So opening the door to seeing, well, what is the bigger wisdom here, the bigger kindness of the design, the thing that I'm not seeing. And this doesn't just have to be with sleep. This is with anything that we consider a problem or a chronic trouble. It's just to see, well, how is this actually kind? What is this? What doors is this opening up for me? The second thing is that I've seen about sleep is that, like any other problem, trouble, whatever you want to call it, we always have wisdom. So we can ask that wisdom to show us what we haven't seen and to guide us in ways that might be helpful. A perfect example of this is many, many years ago, I didn't sleep with blackout curtains, and I was wondering why I would always be in this habit of waking up when the sun rose. Well, obviously, we have an evolutionary basis for light being like, okay, be up, look for predators, get started with your day. But that obviously isn't necessary anymore. So there was something that having my room be as light as the outside at whatever time the sun chose to get up at that time of the year wasn't actually helping me. So my wisdom, this was obviously way before I had the kind of framework and vocabulary to call it my wisdom or my inner knowing or that deeper mind or that better energy that has my back. Like this before I had language around it. But I knew there was this obviousness of like, oh, if you find yourself waking up when the sun rises, maybe get blackout curtains. And so as you can see behind me, this is, it's actually the middle of the day when I'm recording this, but this is my blackout curtain and I have the other ones put up. And so the only light is my recording light. And my van gets very dark and it's amazing to sleep in it like this. And obviously I only had the van for a few months, but even before that, my rooms have always had blackout curtains. And that was just a classic common sense example of my wisdom saying, hey, if you don't want to be woken up by the sun, then maybe make your sleeping quarters darker than the outside environment. Not hard, not, not rocket science. It's just pretty common sense. So again, in the context of insomnia or in any kind of bigger context, we can look to our wisdom to say, hey, I'm kind of struggling with this. I seem to be waking up a lot in the middle of the night, or I'm waking up a lot. Maybe I'm waking up hungry, I'm waking up having to pee, or I'm waking up to the light, or I'm waking up to noise, or like waking up to my partner, like whatever it is. Like we can kind of present that issue, that problem to wisdom and say, do you have any suggestions? Can you help me out with this? Because often it's something so simple and easy and no-brainer that we just don't see because we're focused on the problem. We're like, I have an insomnia issue, and not, if I notice that I'm waking up a lot whenever the sun gets up, what can I do to change that and make that different? The third thing, I realize this video is going to be a little bit longer, but it is a topic that I know a lot of people are interested about and curious about, so I do hope you find this helpful, is that like anything, our chatty little mind wants to be in charge of everything. It wants to control everything. It wants to have a plan. It wants to put things in a box of, this is the problem, so here's the 10-step checklist or the A to Z, how you're going to tackle it. And just seeing that isn't actually helpful can go a long way. And again, this is so much broader than just sleep. Because anytime we have an issue that we think of as an issue, especially when we're like, this is my issue, I'm an insomniac, or I'm chronically anxious, or I'm depressed, or I'm terrible at relationships, or whatever it is, when we box ourselves into this issue, we totally cut off from the previous two things I was talking about, which is looking to what the kindness of the design is, what's actually kind about it, and also asking our wisdom for help. We kind of block both of those doors and then just go into, I need to control this, I need solutions, I need to fix now. And all of that is not being kind and compassionate with ourselves. All of that is creating more resistance, more weight, and just adding to the problem factor of the problem. So when I was not sleeping well at all in this time, I went from there was probably for the first year, I would say that it's not something I identified as having. Like I slept like shit and I knew I was anxious and I knew that part of why I was sleeping like shit was because I was thinking anxious thoughts all night and couldn't get out of it, and there was a lot of suffering and a lot of distress. But at a certain point, it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm an insomniac. Now I'm an incredibly anxious person and I'm an insomniac. And I made those two things way more sticky, way more potent, way more powerful, because I was just letting my mind put me in this narrow box of, okay, you're an insomniac. Now you have a whole other set of problems. And so obviously all of this kind of culminated in, I was going to say obviously, but for me it culminated in going to my doctor for sleeping pills, and one time having an experience so bad and scary. I'm not going to go into the details because I don't want to freak you guys out if you've ever taken or want to take sleeping pills, but needless to say, it is in my chart that I can't have any sleeping pills or anything in that medicine family after this night. That was just absolutely horrific. It was a bad drug reaction. But so anyway, the point is, our minds go and make things a problem. And when they do that, we naturally are like, okay, it's a problem, I need a solution. And so my mind was like, okay, you need to go get sleeping pills. Like, you've tried everything else, you're an insomniac, go get sleeping pills. But that wasn't the deeper thing that there was to see. And that also wasn't what my wisdom was telling me. That was what my mind, my super controlling, super well-intentioned, but super chatty mind was basically saying, well, you've run out of options. So as an insomniac, you have to go with these sleeping pills. And really, what I think we can all benefit from is seeing, wait a second, like just stepping back and saying, wait a second, how much is this my mind trying to run the show? And I see this with people, especially insomniacs, or people who think they have a sleep problem or identify as having a sleep problem, will say, oh, I have to do these things. Like, I have to make sure that my caffeine is cut off by 3, and then I have to make sure that I have my tea, but not, have it early in the night and have the sleep herbs in it, but then not have it too close so it's going to wake me up before bed. But then and they, because they problematize their problem, they create this kind of more control, more ritual, more stuff that isn't coming from wisdom. It isn't coming from, it'd be interesting to try this. It comes from, it has to be like this, because if it isn't, then I'm not going to sleep. And if I don't sleep, then I'm even going to have more of a problem, and blah, 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 spiral. So being kind and compassionate with ourselves and knowing that, yeah, the mind's going to talk. That's what it does. And that's not a problem. We don't need to beat ourselves up for it. We don't need to indulge our every concerns. We can kind of just tell by the feeling, like, oh, I'm not in clarity about this. I'm not in wisdom about this. I'm feeling absolutely really riled up. I'm feeling like I need to control my sleep. I'm feeling like it's life or death if I have a good night's sleep tonight. I'm feeling like I have this big problem that I'm not doing enough to solve. And all of that, just seeing that feeling is telling us, whether we're up in our head about it or in our hearts about it, is going to go a long way to allowing us to just see, oh, my mind's trying to help. It's actually just making things worse, but it's trying to help, and beating myself up isn't going to help, and getting serious about it isn't going to help. And maybe for you, going to your doctor and getting sleeping pills might be the answer. It wasn't for me, but that is not to say that what my wisdom tells me and what your wisdom tells you, they're obviously going to be different. So it's just seeing that we can tell when our bossy minds are trying to control everything and really get serious about our problem, and when we're able to just be kind of more open and flowing with it. Like, oh, who knows what wisdom will guide me to, but I'm not going to kind of go into the snowball effect of making it a problem, desperately looking for solutions, and then when those solutions don't work, making it into a bigger problem, and then beating myself up, and then throwing more things. It's just, we're throwing logs on the fire, and then we wonder why we have an out of control blaze. And it's like, well, because we never held it loosely to begin with, and we never actually checked in with what our feelings were guiding us towards. And the last point is just, do we have a lot of expectations and self-fulfilling prophecies about what our sleep is going to be, and our labels and everything? Because like I said, there was a period of time, quite a long period actually, where I didn't sleep great, and I was really insomniac for most of it, but I didn't label myself an insomniac, and I didn't think about during the day, how am I going to sleep at night? Like, I was way too busy thinking about all of the other anxious things, reasons why my life sucks and life is hard and it's scary and people suck and everything's scary and everything's awful. Like that, I didn't even have time to think about, I'm an insomniac who's not going to get a lot of sleep tonight. So when we do that, though, when we really buy into our labels and our expectations and say, oh, I know how this is going to go, or some of us find that our sleep issues are kind of dependent on stuff. So it's like, oh, no, I'm fine when I'm in my own bed, but not when I travel. Or I'm fine when it's, I can sleep on weekends, but not on weeknights, or whatever kind of rules we make up. We want to just take a gentle look at that and say, am I creating these expectations for myself? Am I telling myself that it's going to be like this based on what day of the week or what caffeine I drank or what I did or anything like that? Because surely the more we do that, the more we're going to find that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, that we tell ourselves, well, I don't sleep good from Sunday to Thursday night. Chances are you're not going to sleep good from Sunday to Thursday night. Like, if our thinking creates a reality, then we have to kind of be willing to look at, well, what rules and what labels have I set up as the norm, as the this is just how it is? Because in the few years that I had issues with sleep, at the beginning part, when I didn't really have a label as an insomniac and didn't really think it was a big problem, I didn't think about it during the day. Yes, I didn't sleep at night, but I just didn't sleep at night because of my relationship to my mind, not because I had this deeper kind of issue that I expected to have, which was I'm not going to sleep at night. And then at some point I did. So now I have all of the anxiety and the really messed up relationship to my thinking, which was basically I took it all as truth and bought into everything it told me. And then that was causing me not to sleep. And then I wasn't seeing that that was the issue. I didn't see the kindness of the design. Instead, I looked at, oh my God, I'm an insomniac, and what do I have to do to tackle this? And got really serious and down on myself. And then I would worry during the day, well, how am I going to sleep at night? And that just became this whole sticky web. So as I'm hoping you can see, none of these 4 points exist in independence of the other. They're all of just a way of looking at what is our relationship to this issue? Are we setting up labels and expectations and rules? Or are we kind of looking to wisdom with a kind of openness and flow and recognizing that sleep is innate, it's going to happen. Our body has this beautiful kindness to it. There is a bigger energy that is working on our behalf, that is basically living us and running the show. And, our feelings will tell us, are we looking to that wisdom and that kindness, or are we looking to a ton of controlling personal thinking and a bunch of rules and expectations? So I know this video is a bit longer than most weeks are. I hope it was helpful for you guys. As always, if you have any questions or comments, I love getting those, and I also love any of your requests. So like I said, this week and last week's were both requests. If you have any, please drop them in the comments below, and I will do my best to make a video on them as soon as possible. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And oh, one more thing. So today, the day this is coming out, not the day it's being recorded, will be September 20th. And some of you may know, some of you may not know, there are global climate strikes. I think Fridays for Future and Extinction Rebellion are the two that are kind of coordinating them. And so I mistakenly thought it was just the 27th, not the 20th and the 27th, hence this week's video. But next week, I will not be releasing a video in support and solidarity with the climate strikes. I actually will be going to a march or protest, whatever you want to call it, to tomorrow, which is the 20th of September. I'm like trying to keep my date straight. Tomorrow, which is the 20th of September, and hopefully also on the 27th. But the 27th, there will not be a weekly video because I just think that it's something that we collectively need to start looking at in a kind of a deeper and bigger way. And yes, there will be more videos that I'm going to put out on this topic. There's more to come for sure. But for me personally, it was really important to recognize that I do have a profession where I'm privileged enough to say, yeah, I'm not going to work on those days. I am going to march. I am going to protest. I'm not going to do business as usual. So I get that if people are, driving ambulances, or if you're a nurse, like it's not always feasible to just be like, I'm not showing up for work, I'm striking. But I do fortunately have that privilege, and I'm going to exercise that right by not releasing a video next Friday. So I will be back with you the following Friday, which would be, I think, October 5th. It's something in October. Anyway, like I said, questions, comments, always welcome. Be well, take care, sending you guys lots of love, and yeah, we will speak in 2 weeks' time. Bye. Bye.